greetings, Ian from RTO here. Welcome to a very dark day again in Northampton. It's 9 o'clock in the morning and I've still got the lights on. You cannot see in front of your fingers. But to warm us up on this dingy day, I've got a great album ranking. One of mine, I think there's one or two people in the part of this little gang love this artist, one being Mike's Vinyl Spiral, and we're going to be doing Siouxsie and the Banshees. Now, they were formed in 1976 by Siouxsie Sue and bass guitarist Stephen Severin. Very influential band. The Times called the group one of the most audacious and uncompromising music adventures of the punk post era. Had one or two people come through the band, and they have released 11 studio albums. They disbanded in 96. Siouxsie continued recording and had a solo career, so she's still making music. So we'll have a look at the 11 studio albums of Siouxsie and the Banshees. I like them all. At the end of the day, but you always have to have a number 11 and a number 1. So if my number 11 is your number 1, it's just a matter of choice. But just because my number 11 is number 11 doesn't mean I don't like it, because I don't. I do like it. So coming in at number 11, we have the 6th album from 1984, Hyæna. So this is Siouxsie Sue, of course, on vocals, Steve Severin on bass and keyboards, Budgie on drums and percussion and marimba, Robert Smith, yes, from The Cure, plays guitars and keyboards. Additional personnel on this one is Robin Cantor on the woodwind and the Chandos players on the strings. First track on here is called Dazzle. Interesting track. Got a lot of sort of 80s production on it, especially Budgie's drums. So not a bad vocal from Siouxsie, so it's pretty okay. Then we get We Hunger. Very 80s production, but the band took advantage of this, and I quite like this. They used it to the right proportions, and it worked out okay. Then we get Take Me Back. Not one of my favourite tracks on the album, to be quite honest. I just find it a little bit overproduced, even for Siouxsie and the Banshees. Then we get Belladonna, one of Stephen's great bass lines on this. Terrific track. I like that one. Then we have one of my favourites. Well, this is my favourite on here, Swimming Horses. It's a very catchy tune. I love the piano on this. It's very good. It's a really strong song. Then we get Bring Me the Head, Preacher Man. Again, a little bit too overproduced, and it sounds very echoey in places as well. Then we have Running Town. Again, once again, we've got a great bass line from Stephen, but the guitar's a little bit overproduced. It needs to be a little bit more sharp and a bit more raw, but it's a reasonably good track. Pointing Bone, some good guitar work on this from Robert Smith. Very underrated guitar player is Robert Smith. Very good vocals as well on that one. And the last track, Blow the House Down. Not a great fan of this one. Again, it's just a little bit overproduced. Okay, I do like this album in places, but it's not my favourite that I don't play. I think Robert Smith came in and did some great work on this because their guitarist had left, their previous guitarist had left, so he come in and filled the spot. It's the production more, it's a little bit off in places, but I shall still give this an RTO ranking of 5 out of 10. Okay then, coming in at number 10 we have the 11th and final studio album, The Rapture. On here It's Siouxsie Sue, of course. Stephen Severin on the bass, Budgie on drums, Martin McCarrick on cello, and John Klein on guitars. First track on here is called Oh Baby. It's not too bad. Still a very solid Siouxsie and the Banshees song. A little bit different, but very good. Tearing Apart. A little bit poppy for them. Yeah. I wouldn't really associate a track like this with Siouxsie and the Banshees. Siouxsie sounds great on it, but it's just a little bit poppy. Then we have my favourite on here called Stargazer. Nothing to do with Rainbow, but I just like this is old style Siouxsie and the Banshees. Some nice guitar work from John Klein. Excellent track. Then we have Fall from Grace. Another good track. Guitar work from John is pretty impressive. Nice bass line here. Budgie's drumming's good. It's just a really all-round nice track. Not forgotten, Budgie's drumming on this is terrific. It's got that distinctive Siouxsie and the Banshees feel to it. Not a bad track at all. Sick Child. Really interesting song. Interesting vocal from Siouxsie. It's okay. Then we get the lonely one. Okay, this is a bit weird. It's quirky, but it's a little bit of a curveball from the band. I quite like it. Then we get Falling Down. More old style Siouxsie and the Banshees. There's some great riffs here. Great drumming from Budgie, and Siouxsie sounds great on this. Forever. Not top draw Siouxsie and the Banshees, but pleasant enough to listen to. Title track The Rapture. A little bit repetitive. It's 11 minutes long and it's just too long for them. The Double Life. This is more of a speaking vocal than a singing vocal. And then Love Me Out. Not one of my favourites. Definitely got that last track on the album feel to it. It's not a classic Siouxsie and the Banshees album by any means, but it's a really strong one. That's a nice one to go out on. There's a little bit of different experimentation on here, but on the whole it's a pretty decent listen. So I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 6 out of 10. Okay, coming in at number 9. This is from 1988, and it's the 9th album, Peepshow. The first record as a quintet, with the arrival of multi-instrumentalist Martin McCarrick on guitar and John Klein. So it's Siouxsie Sue, Stephen Severin, Budgie, Martin McCarrick, and John Klein. First track on our is called Peekaboo, an interesting track. I do like the guitar, the cellos on this. Bit different than the keyboards. It's quite quirky. The Killing Jar, distinctive guitar work here. A great vocal from Siouxsie. Scarecrow. It's 5 minutes long. It's just a couple of minutes too long for me, and it needed a little bit more depth. It sort of meandered a little bit. Carousel. Now this is an interesting track. I like the different sort of percussion here from Budgie. Martin's keyboards really do add to it. It's a really good vocal as well from Siouxsie. Burn Up. Favourite track on the album. It's got some harmonica on this. It's a great vocal from Siouxsie. Just a good solid track from the band. Ornaments of Gold is next. Probably the weakest track on the album. There's a bit of programmed drumming in this, when it just doesn't sound right for me. Turn to Stone, nothing to do with ELO. Really good track, a lot of bongo sort of thing here. It's got a nice guitar tone to it. Quirky vocal from Siouxsie as well. Rawhead and Body Bones, very short track. Psychedelic keyboard sound and a spaced out vocal from Siouxsie. The Last Beat of My Heart. It's got some of this Russian drumming sound from Budgie. The keyboard's one of the best tracks on the album. And then we get Rhapsody. John's guitar work is very good. It's quite mystique in places. A really good song. An album that deserves a little bit more love. It's got some interesting tracks. It's one that's sort of forgotten about, I think. You don't hear people talking about Peekaboo much, but I quite like this, and I'm going to give it an RTO ranking of 6.3. Okay, then coming in number 8 from 1991, we have Superstition. So it's Siouxsie, Stephen, Budgie, Martin and John. Additional personnel, we have got Tavian Singh on percussion and tabla. The first track is a big hit for them. Kiss Them For Me. The tabla drums are pretty good in this. I like that sound. It sort of suited the Siouxsie and the Banshees sound. Excellent track. Then we get Fear of the Unknown, using a little bit more modern technology here. The drumming from Budgie is fantastic, and there's a nice little guitar piece from John on this as well. Then we get Cry. It's an okay song. Great vocal from Siouxsie though. One of her strong vocals on this album. Then we get Drifter. Solid enough. Not one of my personally not one of my favourites, but it's an okay song. Little Sister. Now this is an eerie, atmospheric track. Great vocal from Siouxsie. The highlight of this album is the highlight of her singing on this track. It's fantastic. Shadow Time. Yeah, it's not too bad. It's just a good solid song. Silly Thing. This is an odd one. It keeps, I don't know, it just seems to meander a little bit, but it's enjoyable. Got to Get Up. I love this track. The drumming from Budgie is great. Martin's keyboards are fantastic on this. Silver Waterfalls, and this has got a bit of a, reminds me of OMD in places. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a pretty good solid track. Then we got one of my favourite tracks by Siouxsie and the Banshees. Definitely a top 10 song for me, and it's called Softly. It's an amazing track. Some ambient keyboard here from Martin, and the sultry vocal delivery from Siouxsie that just makes it a moving song. Absolutely fantastic song. And then the last track is called The Ghost in You. Nice track to end the album with. Some really nice keyboards again from Martin. There's some really good, interesting stuff on here. It's a very good album. It's one I really listen to a lot, and I hadn't heard this album for a little while. I've played it a few times now, so I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 6.5. Okay, then coming in at number 7, we got a 1986 now. This is the 7th album, and it is called Tinderbox. So it's Siouxsie, Stephen, Budgie, and on guitars on this is the wonderful John Valentine Carruthers, and he plays keyboards as well. First track on here is called Candyman, one of Stephen's great bass lines. Some nice guitar work by John Carruthers. This was his first outing with the band. Very, very good track. The Sweetest Chili. Now, the Sweetest Chill, sorry, I can't read. Love the vocal at the beginning of this from Siouxsie. It's a really eerie sort of thing, and it's got a great bass line on it as well. Terrific song. The Unrest. Another great drumming performance from Budgie on this one. Got a lovely bass line as well from Stephen. One of my favourite tracks on this album. Cities in Dust. Funky little track this is. Great vocal from Siouxsie. Then we have Cannons. You've got a great sort of combination between the bass and drums here from Stephen and Budgie. And John's guitar work on this is really good. It's little stabs, very good. Party's Full, my favourite track on here. It's got that real gritty post-punk sound on it. That great drumming, fantastic. Then we get a track called 92 Degrees. Another great vocal from Siouxsie. Always delivers with a great bass line from Stephen as ever. Then we get the last track, Land's End. This is Budgie's best drumming on this album. I do love these sort of tracks. Budgie and Stephen really work well together. Yeah, considering this was 1984, the production on it is very good. It's a very good start for John Carruthers. Solid album all the way through. And I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 7 out of 10. Okay, then coming at number 6 is the 8th album from 1987, and it's the cover album Through the Looking Glass. We've got Siouxsie Sue on here, Steve Severin, Budgie, John Valentine Carruthers additionals, Martin McCarrick on the cello and keyboards, Jocelyn Book on the viola, Jeannie Ball on violin, Pete Thomas on trombone, Luke Turney on trumpet, Martin Dobson saxophone, and Julie Alice on the harp. So the first one on here is a great version of the Sparks' This Town Isn't Big Enough for the Both of Us. This is my favourite cover on this album. It's absolutely stunning. There's not many people could carry off Ron's vocal. Siouxsie did. It's a great version of this song. I love this song. Then we have a song from Kraftwerk, and that's The Hall of Mirrors. Very, very good cover. Siouxsie does a great vocal on it. It's not the sort of track you expect Siouxsie and the Banshees to cover, and they cover it, and they do it well. Then we get Trust in Me from the Jungle Book, of course, Cars song, and his eyes go wee. Now, who would have thought that we'd have a song from a Disney film on a Siouxsie and the Banshees album? But we do, and it's a brilliant version of it. I think Siouxsie did an absolutely brilliant job of that. I love that track. Then we get Bob Dylan and the band, This Wheel's on Fire. Certainly a little bit different to Bob's version, of course, but it's really good. They've put it in the what I call the Siouxsie and the Banshees machine and come up with a great version of it. It was a very big hit for them as well. It's a great song done great. Then we have a Billie Holiday song, Strange Fruit. It didn't work for me. One of the tracks on this that didn't work, Your Lost Little Girl from the Doors, of course. Not a bad version of it. It's always hard to cover the Doors. Siouxsie does a good track. Then we have a track by Iggy Pop, The Passenger. I think Siouxsie does this brilliantly. They're both in that same sort of vein anyway. So musically it's run. There's not many people can carry this off, but Siouxsie did. And then we have a track by the great John Cale, Gun, when he has produced some of their albums. So, you know, and it's not a bad version of it, to be quite honest. Then we get Roxy Music, Sea Breezes, and Siouxsie pulls this off again. Absolutely brilliant. I think because you've got, Brian Ferry, of course, has got a very distinctive voice, and I think Siouxsie does it well. Then we have Little Johnny Jewel from Television. This is a great version of this song. It's the last song. I reckon this is one of the best cover albums you'll ever hear. One track on here that didn't quite work, but the rest was superb. She really delivers on this album. And people, you know, I don't have much love for cover albums, but this one I certainly do. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 7.3. Okay, coming in number 5, we've got the second album from 1979, Join Hands, Siouxsie Sue, John McKay on the guitar, Stephen Severin on the bass, and Kenny Morris is on the drums. First track is the brilliant Poppy Day. There's something about church bells on an album song, and this is good. Kenny's drumming is great. Steve's got a great bass line. It's just a classic Siouxsie and the Banshees song for me. Then we get Regal Zone. Interesting track. Some great work on the guitar from John McKay. Placebo Effect. Now this really takes me back to some great music from this period. I just find this a different sound. They took that sort of post-punk sound and did something different to it. Some great tones on this. It's a fantastic track. I love that track. Then we have Icon. Definitely top 10 for me. I love this track. Love Kenny's drumming on this. Some great riffs from John McKay. Terrific song. Premature Burial. A really deep cut track on this album. And I think this has got some of Siouxsie's finest singing in them early days. Then Playground Twist. Yes, you get a bit of tubular bells on a tubular bell on this. It's not tubular bells, but you got that great riffs as well. Absolutely killer track. Then we have Mother, Oh Main Papa. Love the start of this. That old musical wind-up musical box sound, and then it goes into the track itself. Absolutely killer track there. The Lord's Prayer. Yeah, this is the blip on the album. 14 minutes. Don't like it. I really don't like it. The first 6 tracks on here are absolutely dynamite. The last one, the last couple are over the week, but the Lord's Prayer. But don't take away from this album the rest of the songs are absolutely killer Siouxsie and the Banshees songs, and that's why it may have 2 I'm not very keen on. But the rest are just brilliant, so I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 7.5. Okay, then coming in at number 4, we've got the 5th album from 1982, A Kiss in the Dreamhouse. Siouxsie Sue, Steve Severin, another guitarist now, John McGreek, or Groch, and Budgie. We've got some extras on here. We've got Caroline Lavelle and Alison Briggs on cellos, Ann Stevenson's on violin, and Virginia Hughes on violin. First track is Cascade. I love this track. This is my favourite track, and it's one of my favourite tracks by Siouxsie and the Banshees. It's top 5 for me. The guitars are great on this, and Stephen's got a great bass line. Green Fingers. Now this has got a recorder on it. Yeah. Who would expect to hear a recorder on a Siouxsie and the Banshees track? And you do. It's a great track, great bass line from Stephen. Fantastic, I love that track. Obsession. The quartet of the strings on this is brilliant. The arrangement's brilliant. Strong vocal. Love that track. She's a Carnival. This track belongs to Budgie and Stephen. That distinctive bass and drum sound of Siouxsie and the Banshees. Absolutely killer little track. Circle. Very strange drum signature timing on this, but it works, and it's certainly different, and I do like it quite a lot. And then we have another of my favourite tracks on here, Melt. I love the guitar on here. Bit of mandolin. Very catchy tune. Painted Bird. Yet another strong song with a strong bass line. The guitar from John on this is great. Fantastic little track. Cocoon. Interesting percussion. Very jazzy, this. Jazzy sort of post-punk. Excellent little track. And the last track is Slow Drive. Again, we've got a great bass line, some strings, and a very strong vocal from Siouxsie. A lot of people are not keen on this album, but I really like this album. It's got different sort of sounds and genres. There's even a bit of jazz on here. There's not one bad track on this album, so I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 7.6. Top 3. Now this is hard. To me, this is the quintessential Siouxsie and the Banshees albums. For me personally, anyway. So coming in at number 3 is the debut album from 1978, The Scream. Very pioneering album, an important album. Siouxsie Sioux, Steve Severin, John Mackay, Kenny Morris. Opens up with the brilliant Pure. What a bass line from Stephen on this. Some psychedelic guitar from John Mackay. Good opening track for the album. Jigsaw Feeling, one of the great tracks from Siouxsie and the Banshees. I love this track. Definitely in my top 10. Overground, a very simple song. Some nice guitar and a great vocal. Very basic drumming, and it's a really good song. Then we have my favourite track on this one, The Brilliant Carcass. Definitely one of my favourite tracks. It's a proper post-punk song. Great bass line and drumming from Kenny on this. Fantastic track. Helter Skelter, which is of course a Beatles song. All I'll say is just missed out on what I'm doing on Saturday with Richard. Favourite cover songs. This, if we were doing a top 20, this would be in there. But I didn't want to. I don't like putting 2 tracks by the same band. But this is a brilliant version of it. Really, really good. Then we have Mirage. This is a sound. This is just a unique sound. Great vocal from Siouxsie on that one. Metal Postcard, a brilliant track. Great guitar riffs from John Mackay. I love these sort of tracks. Nicotine Stain, Kenny's drumming is brilliant. Another superb vocal from Siouxsie. We've got Sub and Relapse, a dynamite bassline from Stephen, just very solid track. And then Switch, certainly one of the deep cut tracks on this. I love the guitar work and bass line, very similar to what the Police were doing at the time as well. And Siouxsie's vocal is good. This made an impression on a 12-year-old. Okay, the playing is not brilliant. You know, they were still learning their trade, but it's just was a breath of fresh air when this came out. Well impressed with this album, and I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 7.8. Okay, coming in at number 2 is the 4th album from 1981, and it is Juju. Siouxsie, Stephen, Budgie and John McCreek or McCrock. First track on here is Spellbound, classic sounding Banshees track. Again, Steve's bass always delivers. Into the Light, some great drumming here from Budgie. Oh, really good. And then we got the classic, probably my second favourite track ever, by Siouxsie and the Banshees, and it's the brilliant Arabian Nights. I just love the psychedelic guitar on this. I love the eeriness. I love the mystique of this, and it's a fine vocal from Siouxsie. Then we have Halloween, a really strong track, very scary sort of vocal from Siouxsie on this. Very good. Then we get Monitor, some great effects on this, another strong song. Night Shift, the eerie bass line of Stephen really dominates this track. Budgie's drums got the kick on the guitar. Fantastic. Sin in My Heart. Great work on the guitar from John on this. Very sort of heavy sort of thing. Then you got the brilliant drumming on here. And some nice extra guitar here from Siouxsie. She plays the guitar on this track as well. Head cut. Some great guitar effects on this. Special bass sound as well. Weird, effective. Great vocal from Siouxsie. Voodoo Dolly is next. Absolutely stunning track. You can see like people like PJ Harvey getting inspirations from this, especially the delivery of the vocal. When you listen to some of PJ Harvey's stuff, you can see Siouxsie in it. I can see where she gets her inspirations from, because this is a great track. Now, PJ Harvey's a few years. We share the same birthday, and she's a few years younger than me. About, I think she's 3 years younger than me, and I can see how it sort of the Siouxsie and the Banshees probably influenced her in her music. It's a great track. Fantastic album, not a bad track on it from top to bottom, solid as you like. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 8 out of 10. But my number one album, it's probably one of the first Siouxsie and the Banshees albums I really heard. I had a friend who had an older sister. He was, when this came out, she was 17 at the time. And I remember hearing it in a bedroom and thought, oh, this sounds good, who is it? And she showed me it, and she did the decent thing and put it on cassette for me. And I love this album, and it's the third album from 1980, and it's Kaleidoscope. We have got Siouxsie Sue on here, Steve Severin, Budgie, John McGrock, Steve Jones on guitar as well. So the first track is the quirky, brilliant Happy House. Love Budgie's drumming on this. Great guitars from John, brilliant. Then we get Tenant. Crisp drums here from Budgie. Great vocal from Siouxsie on this. I love this track. Then we get Trophy. Interesting track, but it's got some great riffs on here. And I do like this one a lot. Hybrid. The bass from Steve on here is probably one of his best bass lines ever. It's also one of, I think, Siouxsie's finest vocals. There's a little bit of saxophone in this as well. Then we get Clockface. Very short track. This features Steve Jones. Very good little track. Then we get Lunar Camel. Although it has got a bit of drum machine on, it works. I think it does sound like a bit of drum machine. It's quite eerie as well. Great guitar work on it. Then we get one of the hits from this album. Big hit for her, Christine. Good track. Love this. Remember this on Top of the Pops. Brilliant. Then my favourite track on here is Desert Kisses. One of my favourite tracks. Really sort of the effects on this are good. Very, very good track. Then we have Red Light. Very new wave. Bit of drum program on it, but it works. Synthy sort of sound. Very good track. One of Siouxsie's finest vocals on the album as well. It reminds me a bit like Human League's Being Boiled as well. It's probably why I like it. Paradise Place. I love this. The guitars are great. Killer vocals from Siouxsie. Then we get Skin. This sort of builds up and builds up. And once it gets going, it's fantastic. Some great guitar work on here. It's a great track to end the album. This also was the change of personnel when this album came out, and they tried something else, and I think it worked. Every track is good on here, and I've played this to death. I still do. I just love this album. This is one that I want to get again on vinyl. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 8.5. So there we go. A little bit of Siouxsie and the Banshees. Just a great band that I grew up on. I think I appreciate them more now than I did then. But still a great band. As I said, not a bad album in them 11 studio albums. And probably one of the best cover albums you'll ever hear. Okay, that's all for this one. Got a good classic album. An album that I nearly brought yesterday at a record fair. Because I like it so much. But I thought, oh, I've already brought 3 albums. So I really can't afford to buy another one. And we're going to have a look at Billy Squire's Don't Say No. So join me for that later. Bye for now.